Just for the record, I don't know much about this design brief that Yulia is proposing, but go ahead, Yulia.
Oh,
I'm
awesome.
not
Perfect.
proposing it, nothing yet.
Ah, okay.
But this is the opportunity for us to discuss the specific challenge.
Okay.
The community organizers, me and John,
Mm-hmm.
we're running a few different communities. And I'm sorry, John is missing my description. It's very flexible. But the idea is just how to make cross-pollination. We want to cross-pollinate and have, let's say, two communities meet together and to have something for them to cross-pollinate, because they both, two communities, have strong definitions about themselves. We are such and such, and we are such and such. So it's all about expectations. So they used to do something, they used to think about themselves something, and we just want to create something for two communities which were never thinking about opportunities to work together. I will give you a specific example. Community of gamers, computer gamers, community of IT, professional IT people. Those like, no, we are different. Gaming can be a hobby, gaming can be a job. IT specialists, like Agile, Scrum Masters, they think about themselves as a professionals. Always.
Is that the actual example that you guys are arranging for between gamers and
Computer
IT
gamers.
pros?
Yeah,
Developers.
now I know what you're talking about, Yulia. Of course I do.
Okay. And so you made mention, you made mention of the desire for cross-pollination. Is there any sort of subject matter or is there any direction that you'd like that cross-pollination to go in? Or I guess
We have some ideas on that matter. So it can be job opportunities, one option, like our jobs in both segments shall be approached the same way. If there are jobs in this sector for me, if there is anything here for me, like career development, career opportunities in those sectors, it's option one, I'm thinking. Professional development. I have stories and stories when gamers became game developers and then became like IT developers, software developers and such. And it was extremely beneficial. I think the career opportunities or workforce development opportunities or considering neighboring sector would be broadening their scope and mind.
Okay, so career development is one possibility. And did you mention there was another one?
Yeah, entrepreneurial, I would say, aspect of it, or creativity aspect of this. So really releasing people out of the scope of doing something, but just, John, can you help me? It's sort of hackathon when people are forced into the intensive problem solving together and they started to create something together, which they never did.
I could just add something. I had a conversation with this person as well, and they're doing an initiative right now to bring in people of more gender differences. That's what he called it. People who are not necessarily LGBTQ, but that there's more opportunity for women and transgender and non-gender. And so he's creating a little training program, and part of that will turn into, God damn it. Sorry about this.
Turn into, God damn it.
Sorry. Part of it was to, they'd go through this training program, and then they'd want to form teams. And so he was talking to me about, well, what kind of liberating structures would you use or facilitate to empower teams? I don't know if that's part of your conversation, Julia, but I just wanted to throw that into the
this
mix.
piece, but it's too generalized. There are few people, okay, strangers, not strangers, seeing each other like as a group first time and forced to work together into something which they were never thinking of before. The challenge can be specific to this or that, LGBT, gender, for the industry.
May I just, before I get triggered by words. So you said forced to work together.
They come for something new, right?
Yeah.
It's scary for them.
I think the mindset of forced to work together is not an inviting one. Like, no.
Yes, they kind of accept the invitation to do something out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
And if so, they are taking their like they put into the out of the comfort zone. That's why I'm using the forced or hackathon or intensive setup to do something, some challenges. For example, you're a total introvert and you have to do something extrovertic, which you've never done. So you're forced to do that if you join this meetup.
Yeah, I understand what Dove is saying. It's not, the word isn't quite forced. It's strongly requested, or, I mean, they're not held to gunpoint.
Also, like you say they have to if they choose to join.
Yes, that's right.
So it's not that they have to, right? They choose to join where they are. Yeah. See, so
correcting. It's
Yeah,
not native
so
speakers.
there is consent and there is agency. So let's open it up for clarifying questions. So what comes to the mind from the room?
Well, the obvious question I would ask is, what's the venue, or what is it that's bringing people together that they would participate in this?
Do you mean in person?
Pardon?
Assuming in person or online?
I think the question is, whether it's either one.
So it sounds like there's an opportunity to create this gathering, but there at this point is no gathering. So
just so you know, your cat might eat your food behind you.
Yeah, she's hunting. Okay. All right. So we're sort of in the it sounds like we're in the gestation phase of this meeting. So okay, cool. Okay. And so yeah, so we've got IT professionals, we've got gamers, and I guess who is the sponsor, sort of, who has the vision or the desire to bring this event about?
Is it critical question?
No, I'm just
the sponsor is community developer, the organization which is community developer.
Okay.
Known as a community development organization. For what purpose?
Okay.
Not set up yet. Cross-pollination is the topic or the purpose for this one.
Yeah. Okay. Duff, do you have any clarifying questions? Sherry, Sam?
Yes, like for me, just to visualize it, what is the invite? Like I'm a gamer. Why did I join?
So we're given two community organizers. One runs gamers. The second one runs IT professionals. So two community organizers are talking together, seeing the opportunity for cross-pollination and potential benefits for both communities from cross-pollination. So that's what we want to design for the community. First of all, because of fun, for fun.
But my question is, do you need also to design the invite, or
We do need to design an invite.
okay, so it's not only design the event, it's also to design the invite. Okay.
So that's our time for clarifying questions. So I'll invite Yulia and John to mute themselves and turn off their webcam. Oh, Sherry's got a question. Who's running this group? The two groups.
I think it was said before. So for example, Yulia runs one group, and there is another person who reached out to me and John. He runs gamers group.
Right. And so the common factor between these two groups is you guys, or did they come?
We started talking.
Okay.
Two organizers started talking a few years ago because we got a feeling that there is something in common between us. And we were never able to find it until this summer. So this summer, the gamers just realized that they started to hear from their community the same topics we were bringing, which is workforce development and career opportunities. Now it's not just gamers. These gamers are gamers because it's either hobby, so they have similar interest, or they got the interest to do something for like their professional growth, professional development. So as soon as they started to do that, yes, I'm known as a community developer for IT professionals in my region.
So I facilitated a user experience fishbowl for the gamers, which was went really well.
This fishbowl experience was dedicated to.
What they were looking for was how do independent game developing organizations how can they share and be more community like as independent entities? You know, like one company talking to another company, in some ways that's not done, right? Just because it's competition and all that. So we had the user experience fishbowl to talk about ways that they can cross-pollinate and work with each other. I was very happy with it.
Okay.
Now they are interested to do more.
Okay.
Questions they raised were career development specific, hiring, if there is any career, how they can transition careers in game development specifically, how indie developers can be professional developers and such. So it's all about professional growth, I think, right? Growth, to generalize.
Okay. I think that gives us enough to get going on, or at least to try and see where we land. We'll try and set, I mean, I'm so pessimistic about this, but let's set the clock at 8 minutes and see what pops out. So, bringing communities together. I think we had a lot of questions about what seems like the stickiest widget, which is like why, what is one common invitation that both of these groups are going to resonate with? Because the idea of like oh, come and meet these guys, is just like still lands on like, why would I want to meet this other community? I mean, what's in it for me, so to speak, narrowly speaking.
Yeah. So my thought about it is that we don't necessarily have to define the why. If the evening is rewarding enough, I'll try to be funny. If there's food, right? If if it's an invite to study to learn new ways of convening, then it can lure people enough, and you don't have to justify what's in it for you to meet the others. So these are two strategies: either find what is there to learn from the other, or just invite for a fun evening or morning. Or
Yeah. No, food would definitely be helpful in real life. There's also something that is sort of popping up that's a bit more detailed, but I think there is like one of the first moves I would really want to do is sort of increase the subgroup of people who would like to see this happen. So what that might mean is you could start very, very small, just with like the people sort of in the circle of community organizers, just inviting, you know, a couple, just a very small group of people to interact across that boundary from both of these spaces. And that smallness might have the opportunity to sort of expand naturally. And a dinner, something along those lines, is a really good sort of excuse to throw that together for sure.
yeah, so the minimal MVP, if you want, is just to invite the two community organizers that say that it's a good idea to invite their communities to act as a community ambassador. So you have a meeting of two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would say like those two, like just bring one other person. Like if with those sort of 4 or 5 or 6, if both Yulia and John are there in the middle, that's a good space to sort of start off, and it's pretty doable. In that context, you know, I think the classic, like the structures that still jump out, even for like a dinner party, impromptu networking slaps like continuously.
That's exactly what I wanted to say, man.
Right. Troika consulting as well. Like if you had 6 people, Troika's great. Like, you know, every time I get done with Troika, I'm like, those were the best 2 people ever. And that might help to sort of also reveal the types of questions and sort of subject matter that is sort of relevant to at least some people in both of these spaces.
I have a thought, not a liberating structure, God forbid.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's a saying that I love by Stephen Wright: before you judge someone, walk a mile in their shoes. That way, when you judge them, you're a mile away and you have their shoes. So in this context, in the impromptu networking, the question would be, what would a mile look like, and how do your shoes look like?
Okay. I'm not quite sure. You might.
That's an idea.
Yeah. I think I'm actually quite lost. Actually, now that I think about it.
And lost is a good place to start.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Yeah, and there's a lot of different things that actually pop out that could be super just interesting, right? Wicked questions could be a good one, right? What's sort of paradoxical about the relationship between gamers and IT professionals? What is sort of a shared landscape that that we both have to navigate?
There is one thing, I don't know the names, I'm sure you know better than me, but to write the book about failure, how do we fail miserably merging our groups? How much of how to make it the biggest catastrophe ever?
Triz, that would be for sure. That would be a lot of fun. Thinking about not only the brainstorm about how to do that, but just also the envisioning process of like imagining what the worst version of like a failed meeting of IT professionals and gamers looks like. Just looks like, you know, gamers on this side. I get like the high school dance where there's like nobody out in the middle and all the boys and girls are on both one side. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. And then on the like very practical side, you know, purpose to practice, you know, if you can sort of land on something like what to just try and sort of set your maybe a minimum viable. But you know, in the first instance, I would just really want to like test the hypothesis. We think that there's maybe a good interaction. There's a lot to learn. So like throw the dinner and see what happens. If that turns out to be true, then purpose to practice might be good with like returning to that cohort or something. But that feels a little like moving towards a larger event. I can tell you, I'm working on that right now, and I feel like an idiot for it, for not having started with a small pizza party, right? Sherry, what's up? Purpose to practice. Purpose to practice is sort of a macro structure where we go through basically a series of 5 questions. The first one is around purpose. So you can think of it like 9 whys. What are we doing? The second one is about principles. You know, what are the general like appreciative inquiry type stuff? What are the qualities we're going to need to keep track of to achieve our purpose? The third one is participants. So who are the people that we're going to need active engagement and involvement from in order to be successful? And then I believe the last one is structures and process. So, which to me seems a little similar, but I look at structures kind of much more like infrastructure type things. Like, are we going to talk on are we going to have a Telegram group or a WhatsApp group? We're going to email each other. We're going to use this calendar. Like, how are we going to communicate? And then process, being the last one, is often looks more like follow-up-y stuff. Like, when are we going to have the next meeting? What date might we set? How often might we call in pursuit of that date? So I think about that in terms of follow-up. So purpose to practice. Purpose, principles, participants, structures, and process is the invitation.
They couldn't find something with P instead of structures.
I know, right? Real missed opportunity, but what you gonna do? So that's time. So Yulia, John, why don't you come back in and tell us what you thought of our consultation, and we'll go from there.
Does Cheryl still have a question, or just it's from the previous one?
No. So what jumped out as particularly salient?
She's saying the last P. So purpose, principle, participants, process. 5, right?
Yeah, process.
I just you know, 5. The fifth one is structure. Yep. Purpose, people, structure,
principles,
process. The thing that leaped out at me was the idea of starting with, you know, representatives from each piece, you know, rather than bring 50 people in a room, put 3 people in a room or 4 people. I thought that was really brilliant. And I could see that that could really start to create a a foundation for better relationships, for better cross-pollination between the groups.
So it's not using any liberating structure specifically, but just bringing them together to discuss if there is any opportunity.
Well, rather than doing liberating structure with 40 people, we do liberating structure with 4 people. And maybe
And
it's a
we're
wise
using-
question. Maybe it's wise crowds.
Cool.
Or, you know, Troika consulting or impromptu networking. I mean, it could be those, you could use those kinds of structures. I think
like it.
Triz would go more with the group as a whole. It's much more fun that way.
Yes, I agree. I love it. Wicked question also very interesting. Just everything what you proposed, I like it so much. It just gives us very like creative mode to start more focused next steps.
Cool. Yeah.
And feel accomplished even from this. It's just really giving us some specific directions to choose from.
Yeah, and what I like about it as well is it feels very achievable,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Rather than thinking about a big old thing and like, oh, we're gonna get all these people in this room, like just the next incremental step, like, so we're kind of in a 15% solution, right? You know, with no more time, authority, or resources, we could get, we could think about a dinner party with, 2 or 3 people from that side, 2 or 3 people from that side, just sort of check it out and see what the vibe is.
And by the way, I would play the mind, which is not a liberating structure, but it's the best game to bring people closer and to vibrate in the same direction.
Nice stuff. Would you send a link?
Tell us about it.
Really, you don't know?
No.
Oh my God. It's a set of cards numbered 1 to 100. Okay. First round, everyone gets 1 card. And from that point on, no one is allowed to talk or hint what their card is. Just look at each other's eyes. And you have to place the cards face up from the lowest to the highest. Okay, so just by looking at each other, when you feel that your card is the lowest, you put it on the table. And if you miss, then you lose a life, and there's some lives to be. And it's amazing, really. It's because 2 things. One, unlike most games, it's cooperative and not competitive. And 2, unlike most games, it's non-cerebral. It's a game of feeling each other and the field, and not a game of strategy and calculation. And you have a link somewhere.
Yeah, I like it a lot. If you will find the link, yeah, somebody did.
Yeah, John put a link.
I don't know.
Thank you.
This is just it's a link somewhere.
Awesome.
I'm so grateful actually to have this group. And Dov, you're awesome. You're so out of the box thinker.
Thanks a lot. And by the way, so I don't want to hijack the whole meeting, but I had a workshop
Me too.
3 weeks ago about the mind and how we can apply it in groups, because the mind is designed for up to 4 people, and I have a way to play it up to 100 people. So if you're interested, ping me. I'll explain better. But first, you have to experience it in the simple version.
I have to go in a minute, but if you will put your contact, how to reach out to you, Dov, I will be really grateful. Jeremiah, I didn't say.
It's really simple.
Thank you.
Write my name and look it up on LinkedIn.
Yes, sir. Jeremiah, so grateful for your help.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I have to jump off.
Thanks, Yulia.
Thank you.
So Sherry, you'll have to ping me again because it's over. But or ping me and I'll send you a video that perhaps shows how it's played.
Well, does anybody else have a design brief for us to work on?
I could actually pitch something. One of the things that Yulia and I are working on also is we've taken over a social group in the area called HV Tech Meetup, and the meetup was before the pandemic was 100 to 200 people would come on a monthly basis, and we'd hear people talk and we'd share job opportunities, and it was a general meetup for this area, and people within about 100 miles would come. It's not a design, it's just a networking group, so of software and IT professionals. But when the pandemic hit, it dropped, and the people who were running it stopped doing everything. There was a Slack group, but the meetup, the person who was handling the meetup dropped the ball, and there was absolutely nothing going on for 2 years. So Yulia and I picked it up, and we're looking to reinvigorate this whole thing. And so we would have basically a meeting. Hey, come on back. And we've got a venue. It's a nice big space, and I actually thought we would do an open space to talk about or explore where do we take this group and what do we do with it. And so I'd be interested to hear what your all take is on how to do that well and generate good information from everybody.
So my gut feeling is just do the fucking open space. and doing the open space is what gets you there. So if you want if the purpose of the open space is to see how we continue, you continue by doing the open space.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's pretty easy.
So much for the structure, huh?
Yeah.
But I think this is a relevant one for a lot of people, though. A lot of groups, like a lot of groups. The Netherlands meetup group for Liberating Structures is the same situation. I mean, there's 2,500 people. It was active at some point throughout the pandemic, and then stopped being active, and it certainly hasn't had an in-person event, especially now that Barry and Christian are not focused on it. So I'd be super keen to continue to explore this avenue of how might we reinvigorate a group that once was active and no longer is such a thing even possible? Clarifying questions.
This isn't a question, but I could actually share. I mean, I talked about ukulele. During the pandemic, we couldn't play together, obviously, because singing is a spreader event, right? Just cause. It doesn't matter how far, you can be spaced apart, but if you're playing music, you can't be that far apart. And you can't play music together online because of the subtle lags between my connection and your connection and getting, my feed to you. And so, to sing a song together or play music together is impossible. And so
just let me correct you for a second, because I heard the fascinating talk about this. Most of the lags are lags that are caused not by communication, but by software and OS. So there is hardware that you buy and doesn't cost a lot that allows you to get rid of most of the lag.
Well, that's good. Yeah, and that's awesome, and I could see that. But for our group, which are, mostly, very amateur and not good with computers, and it's just not that important. But it's important. It's important spiritually, but it's not important any other way. So they're like, yeah, screw it. But we have been doing it over Zoom since the pandemic started by having one person play and everyone else is muted. Okay, so that's fine. And we've now moved back to being in person. We can. So, I'm just bringing that up because it's like, a physical group going to a virtual group, going back to a physical group is possible. I think it takes the commitment and the drive of the individuals. Now we do, just for interest, now we do in person and then we Zoom it so that people who joined us from all over can play with us. Works out pretty well.
So, like, to answer, I think at least Jeremy's question, I think that the question of is it worth it is a question to pose to the community. No, it's not. The question is not how do we convince them to do it, but
Right.
ask them, like, the group has a voice of its own. Activate this voice. Ask them, do you want to meet online? And if the will is not there, why would I force doing that?
Right, I agree.
And by the way, meanwhile, I have an idea to give you a taste of the mind online. Would you like to try?
Sure, let's go for it. I think that's a good enough provocation for me. Is that the question of is it worth it?
So it's just to simulate the first round. Okay. So the question is, first of all, raise your hand if you're playing, because there's Sam and Sherry, and I don't know if they're playing or not.
Sherry's in the game.
So we have 4 players, which is like the maximum number. So Sam will be a silent observer or a non-observer. I don't know. I'm sharing a link with you, and the link is a link to a number generator, which gives you one number between 1 and 100. Okay, so each one of you, once you press this link, you will get a number, and when you get the number, Sherry, you can lower your hand.
Just as a note, it comes up the random number generator comes up 1 to 10, and you have to change it to 100.
Ah, really? Okay. Sorry. So the link. Thank you for this. Okay. So generate a number between 1 and 100. Okay. And when you're ready, raise your hand. When you see a number, raise your hand. And when all hands are raised, don't do it yet. Lower your hand. And once you lower your hand, we stop talking and we just look into each other's eyes, or virtualize in the case of Sherry. And whenever you feel that your number is the lowest, write it in the chat. Okay, or in fact, we can do it like this. Write it in the chat, but don't press enter. Okay, write it now and don't press enter. And when you're ready, when you think that your number is the lowest of the 4, press enter. Okay, so. Okay, so we lost 1 life.
Oh, that's interesting.
That was
Okay.
that was interesting. It was close.
Now, so we lost 1 life, but we gained 1 life because we moved to the second turn. In the second turn, now generate 2 numbers. Okay, and now we again have to put the numbers from low to high.
Okay, hold on. I want to narrate because the video recording can't record on Zoom. So what just happened is Dove very quickly dropped 3 into the group, and there was quite a long pause. And then I came in with 58, and then Sherry with 57, and John with 73, all quite quickly. So very interesting. So all right. So 2 numbers you said, Dove?
2 numbers, and remember them, right? And of course, you start with the lower one. So, and again, the purpose is now to put all 8 numbers on the table from low to high. Is that clear?
Yes. We're waiting on Sherry to put up your hand. Okay. Wow, we got really close. That was great.
So that's how the game is played. Only like there's physical cards, it's more interesting. Also, like there's the question here: if 2 people get the same number, I guess it's okay, right? So that's the feeling of the game. Okay. Now, on a physical setting, what you can do, as you can guess, if we play 10 people, it's impossible, right? There will be a lot of miscommunication. So what you do is, imagine we know how to play up to 4. Now we can play 8, and we play in pairs in a physical setting. So me and Jeremy, we sit near each other and we see the cards, and we look at each other to say, this one, not this one. Okay, so we have some decision together, and it's fascinating also to see the decision of the other minds, like the other pairs in the room. And you can play it also 3 people, right? In groups of 2 or 3. And that's how you scale it up one time. And the bigger one I didn't test yet, but so we'll see. But that's how you can play in quite big groups without having too many participants that intervene with each other. And also, by the way, it removes, one person told me he loves this game and his wife hates it. And she hates it mainly because she feels the responsibility of ruining stuff. I don't know who here said, like, no, Jeremy. No, John, right? John, you put 25 too fast. You ruined it for everyone.
I ruined it. Right.
Okay,
Jeremy ruined it because he didn't go fast enough. 21.
Yeah, okay, so whatever. The thing is that playing in pairs removes this personal accountability.
Mm.
Mhm.
So now you feel much lighter when you reach a decision because you never reach it alone.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah.
Right. I really like the additional group dynamic, right? That comes from like us observing them and then like trying to figure out like between us, like what is it we are thinking silently of having observed these guys over there.
Yeah. And in fact, for me, it's, my view of the world is that I'm not one, you're not one. And even when you look at the cards, your facial expression shows this dissonance between the will to put it and the will to hold it, and the will for us to win and the will for not to ruin it, and you have all of these. So already when I see you as a team.
Hmm.
When we are two, the team is more explicit.
Mhm.
But still, there's group dynamics of one person as well, the way I see the world.
One of my favorite books that I've been on a fucking whirlwind of recommending to people is called System-Centered Training, and they have an illustrated guide that they put out not too long ago. Now, here it is. It's System-Centered Training, and they work. It's a synthesis between psychology and group dynamics, and the what I want to describe as the great innovation of this book is very similar to what you're describing. Is this notion of the person as a system, and the recognition that there's a lot of moving parts in the personal energy system, right?
An infinite number, if you ask me. But I think we're diverting. But
For sure. Sherry mentions that there's in the pairs, there's some element around pair programming.
Yeah, of
that
course.
also seems particularly relevant. And yeah, if you noticed my raised eyebrow, it's like, okay, yeah.
And just one other variation for the pair. Like imagine that you sit in a round table and you switch the pairs all the time, right? So one time I'm with Jeremy, like one time I'm with the person on the right of me, one time to the left of me. Or if you're three, then the third moves, right? And the middle one holds the card, but it moves all the time. So you mix well this thing.
Is that so? Just to clarify, is that every round? So every time we would play another game, we would switch groups,
Yeah,
or would that
round.
be with? Okay.
Okay, so first round, everyone one card, but we are in threes, right? Second round, 2 cards, and we are in different threes. Third round, and the idea of the game is to see what level do you reach? How many levels of the mind you can reach with before you lose all your lives?
Interesting. Well, thanks, Dov. I think that seems like our time today. We've been hanging out for a good hot second. So thanks, John, for bringing us another juicy design brief. And appreciate everybody for hanging out and adding to the collective wisdom.
It was very fun. It was great to meet you, Dov. It was great to be back. I haven't been in a while.
So just for the question, how many rounds can you reach without losing all of your lives? I think there are 12 levels. And I know of someone who reached with her daughter and the friend up to level 12 and then back to level 1.
Wow.
Well, I guess it depends on how many lives you give yourself, but.
So the rules are clear, like in the card. So you get lives as function of participants, and every round you get something. Either you get a life, or you get, like, there's another option. Instead of a life, you can get, there's a card that allows everyone, if we choose to do so, to get rid of the lowest card. So if we feel that we're stuck, we can all get rid of our lowest card. So, and if you like this one, the creator of the mind also created a game called The Game, which uses exactly the same cards, but with totally different rules and purpose.
Funny. Correct.
Guys, I'm gonna go scoop up the kids. Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see you
The
all.
game,
See you again
so
soon.
just Sherry, the first game is not mime, but mind. And the second one is The Game. No, M-I-N-D, the mind, the game.
All right, bye, everybody.
Take care.
And I had a question. Maybe I guess I'm gonna imagine, you know, Sherry. You asked if I can turn on the voice transcription, and where do I find that setting?
Bye-bye.
In the big settings. So under preferences. Is that under chat, I would guess? Ah, so in this, on the website then. Ah, no, the app settings. Yeah, okay, cool. All right, I can do that for sure. Sweet, well, thanks for hanging out. I'll see you around. Figuratively, of course.